So last time I was flying the Rorqual. The Rorqual is definitely a very good ship, and I really do like it. If I ever decide to do mining, the Rorqual will be my, well, I guess my goal. Now today I'll be flying the Orca. This is a ship that a lot of players really love for both PvP and PvE, specifically mining. The Orca can have some pretty nasty DPS that I'll show you today, and of course the Orca can pull off some, well, some pretty good results when it comes to mining as well. This is a very interesting ship. Now, when it comes to the stats, the Orca hasn't been changed. I don't remember the ship gaining or losing anything. It's basically the same as it's been for quite a while. And it does have some very nasty drone DPS, as I already mentioned. And besides that, you also do get some pretty good mining stuff as well. Also, can kind of work with the remote shield boosters. Kind of a, well, let's just compare it to the Orca a little bit. It does seem to work like a mini Orca in a way, although the Orca is definitely its own ship. Now, the Orca is something, well, between a capital and a battleship. Not exactly a capital, but not exactly a battleship as well. And that will have a very important, I guess, role later on, since I'll be flying this thing into the Wormhole space today, into Cobalt Edge, and well, time to see how this thing would work. Now for the rigs, have the same rigs as on the Rorqual. Mining drones seem to work really well. In the combat rigs, you can actually focus on tank or DPS, depending on what you want to do with the ship. You can use this as a bait in Cobalt Edge, but at the same time you can also use it for actual mining. So we will come back at the rigs a little bit later. First, I have to focus on the modules here. Now you can fit strip miners because these are specifically made for the Covetor, and on the Orca you can't use them, unfortunately, but you can use the normal miners, and you can use missiles, you can use any other weapon system that is available to you. For an bait Orca, I personally like to use large rapids, although medium rapids work really well as well, depending on what ship you will expect to land on you. But they will be using the Orca with the mining laser single diode miner. They do some, they do a good job. Although most of the mining will come from the drones on the Orca. Now it can fit the command burst modules, and in the command bursts, I'll just use the shield command burst. I'll use the mining command burst, and I will use the skirmish command. Now the skirmish command can be good for drones, and the skirmish is really good when it comes to PvP, or should I say, can be good as a defensive measure as well for the drones. Does enhance them a bit, and of course does enhance your fleet, so always a good idea to have these modules installed. And there is the skirmish module. Let's install that, and yeah, there we go. All the three necessary command bursts are now installed on the Orca. Now when it comes to drones, as I already mentioned, you can fit the exhumer drones. You are limited to the heavy mining drones, unfortunately, although they will still be doing a good job. And besides the mining drones, you should always carry a whole lot of combat drones, because you never know when you have to defend the Orca against attacks. The Orca has a bonus on them, and it has a pretty good DPS. It is more than capable to defend itself against some light ships, medium-sized ships. Very good against, can defend itself very good against frigates, cruisers, destroyers, classic low-sec gang builds. The Orca can easily handle them. For something more serious, the large drones will be necessary for battlecruisers and battleships. If your Orca is tanked, you can defend yourself against glass battleships, but when it comes to a tank versus tank, the Orca will probably lose, so you'll be able to defend yourself against most targets, but against the more heavily armored targets you might have problems with. Now you can fit the blue module, you can fit the red module, but you can fit the Beaver module. This module is very good, and we'll come to that in a moment. So this module enhances your DPS, it also enhances the drone EHP, it also enhances the mining, and does give some extra shield booster performance. So this is basically one of the most important modules for the Orca. It's also expensive, about 10 to 15 billion on market, but that extra DPS is really good when it comes to combat. You can get some pretty good DPS out of this thing, and later on you will actually see that the effect is actually higher. It's 120% bonus on everything basically, so you get 120% extra damage on the drones, which is fantastic, honestly. As for the other modules, well, since I'll be in Cold Edge, Cloak is important, and the cloaking device is basically a crucial cloaking device, or cover tops cloaking device is crucial in the Cobalt Edge systems. So I'll just slap one right here, basically a similar or the same idea that I had with the Rorqual. That's basically what I'm basing this on, with some differences between the rigs. This ship can be DPS and tank. The Rorqual can't, because you can't fit drone rigs on a capital. But on the Orca you can actually do that quite well, and it's not a big problem. Now, for the other 4 module slots that I have available, I'll just use, I think, an adaptive, or dual, well, at least one adaptive, adaptives, a damage control, and a booster. Now, damage control became a very important module in my build because of high burst implants. Basically, the damage control can help you absorb a crazy amount of damage, and honestly, nowadays that module is one of the more crucial modules that we have in the game. So, if possible, I definitely recommend a damage control on most of the builds nowadays. It's very important to have that module, since of the, because of the implants. A lot of crazy implants out there in damage control does help a lot to absorb as much damage as possible. So far it's been working really well, and we will see if they add a new active type of damage control that does add more active resistance. We'll see. I really hope that they do that, or that they make the current damage control a active module. And now on to the shield booster. I know I have a lot of modules. It's hilarious how much scrolling I have to do, and I can't stack them all because it just crashes the game because I have just so many modules here. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy how many modules I have here. And on booster, there we go. And the tank is, well, actually, it's not completed yet. This is how it would look, but we have the rigs. Now with the rigs, you can go with any type of defense recombination that you want to have. Integrations or non-integrations, again, both are really solid. But in Cold Edge, I kind of feel like you want to get the best possible defense that you can. Although it's not really necessary to do that, but based on my experience, I definitely want to have as much defense as possible. So a very good shield tank, in this case for the Orca, will be more than enough to troll most of the hunters out there. Most of the hunters in Cobalt are solo, although there are fleets as well, so you have to be kind of careful. And you also have to kind of have backup nearby, although you can go solo. I mean, you can go solo or with a fleet, although in both cases going into Cold Edge with a mining ship to mine, for example, is not a good idea unless you have your own systems over there that you control. But if you like something more exciting, I guess you can go solo, or you can go in unknown space without sovereignty space. I mean, works, I guess. So if you want to do that, you can. And now we have some more defense. Let me unlock and let me show you the stats on this thing when it's active. Now, honestly, this is probably not the best tank build that I can come up with, but it does give a general idea what you can expect from the Orca if you want a tank build, of course. Classic rigs are more than enough for 99.99% of occasions, and of course encounters within the game. 578,000 hit points, well, not bad, decent actually. The booster does help a lot. It does have that extra boost when the Beaver mode is activated. Well, basically the Beaver mode is the subcapitalist version of the Rorqual's special industrial mode. It's kind of similar in a way, although the Rorqual's module is much more powerful, I would say. but in the end they do kind of have about the same purpose. And 1.7 million hit points when the damage roll is active, pretty good, pretty solid, and no complaints from me. So, now I did mention that this thing does have some pretty crazy DPS. Well, crazy DPS for a mining ship. Not the same as the Rorqual. The Rorqual has higher DPS if you equip drones, but you know, for a industrial ship, this thing does slap. It's a very interesting combat ship. The Orca is a very, let's say, popular choice for a bait ship in low sec. So if you do see an Orca in low sec, there's a good chance that it's a bait. So always be careful around these ships. And let me just quickly show you what type of DPS can you expect. Now, you can probably say that you might have higher DPS, that my DPS here is not going to be the best DPS, because I'm usually trying to show the upper-lower possible DPS, not the maximum possible obviously, but you know, on the higher end. I know players who have more DPS than this, so this is definitely not the maximum DPS. We can get a lot more out of the Orca. That is possible, of course. I'll show you what I have here. Now, also depends on the drones. The ogre drones have basically the best DPS. So if you want paper numbers, then the ogres will be the job. But I would suggest you mix the drones. Have one drone of every type. Now, 1,000 DPS, not bad. Well, we're about to increase that. We're about to increase that a lot. And the Beaver mode is also playing a big role in that, since the Beaver mode, when activated, does give you extra 100%, well, 120% extra DPS, as you will see later on. Although the Beaver mode does prevent you from warping, and the Beaver mode does prevent your ship from moving. Although this thing is huge, it's not going to move anywhere anyway, so only thing that matters is the drone speed, actually, so you don't have to really worry about not being able to catch anything. The drones will catch most stuff. The drones are quite speedy. Even though this thing is big and slow, the drones are going to be running around, and they will be able to catch stuff without a problem. Now there is nest form drone damage, and for now I'll use 2 of them. And depending on, I guess, the build, and depending on what you want to do with it, you can go with all DPS, but against some smaller targets, I definitely recommend that you have at least 1 or 2 of those drone navigation computers, because some of the light ships, some of the small ships are very fast, and you want your light drones to be able to catch them, so it's always a good idea to have some navigation computers to enhance the drone speed. And as for the implants, if you plan to bait with this thing, Aerospace Tactic or the Bomber Tactic, both are good. The Bomber Tactic has fantastic alpha damage. The Aerospace Tactic implant has that sustained DPS. The Bomber will technically give you higher DPS, but for a short amount of time, while the Aerospace Tactic will give you high DPS but lower DPS than the Bomber Tactic, but it lasts basically permanently, and it is a passive bonus. So again, if you have both implants, then you can basically pick which one you want, but if you don't have both, then any of these 2 implants will just get the job done without a problem. And of course, you can change the high slots into any weapon that you want. Missile, cannon, laser, railgun, I mean, everything works, but I prefer to use missiles, because, you know, missiles don't miss and they just slap, so missiles are also what I would use on this ship in its highest slots. If I decide to go and bait with the Orca, then yeah, that's definitely the weapon choice in the highest slots for me. Rapid mediums or rapid large, both are fine. The medium ones are good against more targets, the large rapids are good against medium and large targets as well, so if you expect to get jumped by battleships, then large rapids. If you expect to get jumped by smaller ships, then medium rapids, but in the end both are going to work just fine. And 2,200 cold DPS, well, that's not bad, getting pretty close to my Macarial actually, so that's thumbs up for me. And now let's undock and let's see the active DPS. Now this is where the fun begins, because as I already mentioned, the Beaver mode does add 120% DPS, and well, time to see how much DPS can I push out of this thing. Now with the Bomber Tactic, the DPS is about 10-15,000, which, you know, is pretty good, but a short duration. And with both amplifiers turned on, we have 4,310.43 DPS on the Orca. Well, not bad, not bad at all. That's some solid slapping right there, and it has some pretty good tank to go along with that as well. Not many frigates, cruisers will last against such DPS, and battleships that have no tank will also have some problems with this DPS. So you have some decent surprise over here. Now for the nanocore, you don't really have a nanocore that enhances drones. I mean, this nanocore that I have right now doesn't enhance the DPS, but it does enhance mining. So it's gonna be good for this video today. That's going to be a Orca mining video. But you know, if you have the nanocore upgrade, maybe you do get some drone DPS down the road. But in my case here, I don't get any extra drone DPS from the nanocore, and honestly, that's fine. Alright, well, welcome to Cobalt Edge with this Leviathan. Now, remember when I said that the Orca isn't exactly a battleship, but the Orca isn't exactly a capital? It's something in between. It has a very good classification, and that does bring the question, well, if it's not a battleship, but it's not a capital, then what the hell is it? Well, it's the Orca. It's its own category. It's the Orca. Now, why did I mention that? Well, small wormholes allow ship classes up to battleships to enter the wormhole. And then you have the large ones which allow everything to enter. So the question is, well, can the Orca go through a small wormhole, since it's technically not a battleship, but technically not a capital? Well, the answer is yes, it can. And I figured that one out when I looked at the Orca's wreck. The Orca's wreck is kind of a giveaway on what the game counts it as, and it counts it as a battleship. It can enter through a small wormhole. Up to battleships can enter the small wormholes. So yeah, that's a big clear advantage over the Rockwall. You can enter Cobalt Edge stealthily, and I say stealthily because the large ones usually are monitored. There's always a scout or something inside watching, so if you hit the Orca through a large wormhole, good chance you're gonna get jumped at the other end, or good chance that you're gonna jump inside of the bridge space in the wormhole. But if you enter via a small wormhole, you are safe. Well, mostly safe, because small wormholes are more harder to find, and they are usually located in deep lowsec, all over the lowsec, but usually the deeper ends of lowsec. So you can enter through a small one, and you can just continue from there on. Chances to get jumped are smaller, but never zero. Always a chance to get jumped. But usually when you enter through a smaller hole, it's generally acceptable that it's safe. Although again, I wouldn't use the word safe in Cold Edge, because this region is anything but safe. Unless of course you have your own space in Cold Edge that you own and you control, all the entry points, exit points. You have eyes over there basically, then you can kind of classify it as safe, unless your eyes are AFK or something slips in, and then you know, always a chance that can happen. Now, how does the Orca work when it comes to mining? Well, it actually is very similar to the Rorqual, although the drones will be able to collect gas, the drones will be able to collect everything, but you have to lock stuff if you want to use the mining lasers. The mining lasers have to have a target in order to, you know, shoot lasers. Yeah, mining lasers. Technically, it is shooting. But yeah, you can lock rocks and mine them with the mining lasers. And honestly, it does get the job done really well. No complaints from me when it comes to the mining performance on these ships. It is pretty solid. And the mining performance on the Orca is honestly really solid, and it definitely does get the job done without a problem. Is it as good as the Rock when it comes to metal? It's not, obviously not going to get the same level of mining performance with this ship as you would get with the Rorqual. After all, the Rorqual is a capital and has larger mining drones, but the Orca does get the job done for what it is really well. I mean, it has some advantages over the Rorqual, being smaller and being easier to smuggle in Cold Edge. So in order 30, well, estimated 36 million is in the ore hold of the Orca when it comes to when I'm mining here. I mean, I forgot how fast the Oracle gathered 36 million. The Oracle does mine like 3-4 times more, so you can expect that difference to be about three times, I guess. And the Cobalt Edge belts, from what I've seen, aren't that bad. The main problem is actually getting there and establishing a base, since it is still kind of clumbered all together, right? And we need to have more of these systems available. When the systems are more widely spread, when we have more of the drone lands available, then the distribution of players will be more equal, and it's going to be less saturated. I mean, right now you can't really go much without stumbling into a player. So for PvP, it's actually a really good place. Or if you want, well, if you like unknown space like that, it's definitely a very good thing for that. Now the Beaver mode, when you are mining with the Orca, if you have the Rorqual and the Orca, you kind of figure out that both of them work the same way. Now if you were wondering, well, can you fit the strip miners and normal mining lasers on the Rorqual? Well, I tried, you can't. You only can fit, you can only fit the large or capital remote shield boosters, which is kind of funny because if the Oracle had the option to equip mining lasers, would maybe those high slots would be less useless. Not exactly useless, but you know, you can fit missiles, you can fit mining lasers, you can fit turrets, you can fit capital stuff. You can only fit remote boosters. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it is still nonetheless kind of a limit on what you can do with that ship. Well, so far this seems to be mining really well. So I've had quite a lot of feedback when it comes to the mining ISK outputs, and it's, I would say, quite interesting. On one side, it seems the raw materials that we can get out of this region can be useful and definitely has its application, has its use. At the other end, the risk reward might be, well, some said that the risk reward is way too high for actually making it profitable, and honestly, to some extent I actually agree a lot with that, because who would risk to get a Rorqual into Cobalt Edge? Of course, I mean, if you can do that safely, then I guess you can do it safely, but in most cases that is still a very risky maneuver. And the Orca used to be quite expensive as well. I mean, if you have the Beaver mode, it is going to be an expensive Orca. Basically, the Beaver mode costs more than the ship itself. The Beaver mode costs about 15 billion, and the Orca, last time I checked, it was about 3 billion. I have absolutely no clue how much it costs now, but the Beaver mode is basically the most expensive thing on the Orca. Well, the ship, the hull itself, isn't that bad when it comes to the price. So yeah, it's definitely a more affordable ship than, obviously more affordable than a Rorqual, but nonetheless, it is still a juicy target for pirates. So even if you fly a cheaper ship, that doesn't mean that the chances to get jumped are lower. I know for a fact a lot of players would would eat everything they have for an Orca. I mean, I'm one of them probably. I would definitely eat. If I see an Orca, I'm eating. I don't care. Simple as that. Although the Orca is potentially a very dangerous ship to encounter, depending on the build, I guess. Most of the Orcas that I have encountered haven't been that tanky or that dangerous, mostly because their builds sucked, and why their builds sucked, I have no idea. Most of them have like a million stabs as well, which honestly, it's kind of funny because it's not going to work. Well, it's going to work against the average pirate, I guess, but against professionals, not going to work. And when I say professionals, even if they don't have enough even if they don't have enough points to hold you, they'll just ram you, and you can't warp if you get constantly rammed. Even if you have those stabs that can allow you to move faster, inertia stabs basically, if you get rammed, it's over. It's just, this thing is slow, and you are not going to be able to move a lot with it. So if you're constantly aligned, then I guess it might work. But against stealthy ships like a Stratius or similar, if you don't have defenses, then it's going to be a quick game over. Although in Cobalt Edge, if you already have an Orca in Cobalt Edge, then I would assume that you know what you're doing with the ship, and I'll also assume that you do have support nearby, since again the ships are very good to be used in a fleet. They're very good, I guess, kind of good support ships in a way, since they have bonuses on the command bursts that also do impact your own ship as well. So a good asset to have in a fleet, Orca fleet or Covetor fleet, or you know, other mining barges with the Orca as the command ship. That does give bonuses on, well, mining on everything else along the way. And also the ISK per hour so far has been okay. Obviously much lower than, well, not much lower, but not that lower than the Orca, but it still does give some pretty good results there. So I can't really complain about the mining performance on the Orca. Of course, if you see an Orca in Cold Edge after this video is out, well, I would just say maybe it's a bait because the DPS on this ship is just kind of wild. So, and I think, I mean, most players, if anyone, actually, you know what, when I think about it, if anyone goes to eat an Orca in Cold Edge, it is most likely going to be a bait, because, you know, there you will have players think that they see a mining ship in easy target, right? Well, pirates can take advantage of that and actually take a bait Orca into Cobalt Edge and just wait. I can almost guarantee you're gonna get jumped. I'm just gonna say that. If you take an Orca out in Cobalt Edge and sit for a while, you're gonna get jumped. That's just what's going to happen, because the Orca is just a juicy target to miss out on. So yeah, just a precaution. If you see an Orca in Cobalt Edge, it's a bait 100%. So I mean, you can engage, I guess. Might produce some pretty funny lost medals or kill medals, but I'm just saying, if you see one, yeah, probably a bait. Probably a bait. Or any, I mean, if you see a Rorqual, actually, if I see a Rorqual in Cold Edge, I'll be confused. I'll be very confused. I wouldn't know what to say if I see a Rorqual in Cold Edge. I would still tackle it though. Maybe it's a bait, maybe not, but it will be funny to find out regardless. And anyway, no, as mentioned before, this thing is awesome. I mean, the Orca is a very unique ship in the game, and if you like mining, and if you also like to bait, then this ship is definitely able to perform both tasks really well. And I do like the Orca a lot. It's a very, very unique ship and a very interesting one as well. So yeah, that will be it for the Orca for today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me down in the comment below. And well, been a pretty chill run with the Orca, honestly. I do enjoy flying these ships a lot. It's a very relaxing experience in a way. Relaxing as, you know, I can just enjoy the game for what it is and basically just, you know, just relax, and in a lot of cases that's all I need, honestly. Just a ship, just some good old Eve music, you know, and just relax and enjoy the game for, you know, for what it is, and enjoy the ship for what it is as well. It's a surprisingly relaxing experience.
Docking request
And well,
accepted.
with that being said, if you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.